provide incentives for studios to stay in Cali or attempt to at least poach projects from places like Georgia. And Park Police and members of the Secret Service administered CPR and an AED unit until medics finally arrived. Crews, meantime, are wrapping up repairs.
If you like coffee the way I do, and you can't afford to buy coffee any longer, not at these prices. Look at this. But none of this little bitty cans here. These are small cans. These are big ones. Look at this. This is ridiculous. I'm glad this didn't happen to me tonight. I had my tent set up underneath this tree. Oh, I had to go to a DUI class. And I was living way out in the boonies. Had to come into town to do it.
You might be surprised by what they were stealing.
Kohl's is a big store, a department store. If you think about all the items that they sell, what one item do you think a theft ring might be interested in? Well, in this case, investigators say it's underwear. Men's underwear. Thousands of dollars worth of men's underwear. For the fourth time in Metro Atlanta, police say these three women entered a Kohl's store with the intent of stealing a large quantity of men's underwear. This was the Noonan store. Here the women are seen on surveillance cameras crouched over a display case in the men's department. Their quarry, according to the company, is Nike men's boxers. According to Kohl's website and the police report, a box of 3 normally sells for about $40. The women are accused of filling their big bags with $1,800 in Nike men's briefs and skipping the cash register on the way out.
These of the weapons were displayed to other students or used in a threatening manner.
I have 2 children at Rome High School.
Your biggest concern?
That they won't come home from school. I wasn't going to send my kids to school today anyway.
Ms. Strickland and others complained about the lack of district leadership and how some parents received a text or an email or nothing at all about the weapons.
What they're talking about today is total reaction. It should have been handled beforehand instead of waiting to after the fact.
Charles Love and others say Rome High School is without a principal and the district has an interim superintendent, Dr. Dawn Williams, who told the concerned citizens one place to start improving safety is with how students dress.
So we are looking at jackets and hoodies being removed and carried into the building.
She also said opened prop doors were not acceptable and the district is considering buying anti-bullying software.
2 others wounded. Police say the suspect was involved in an argument with several family members inside the hotel room. At some point during the argument, according to police, he shot the 3 victims and fled the area. He was arrested a few hours later. A heartbreaking story out of Kentucky tonight, where a man grieving the loss of his wife in the devastating flash floods is finding solace in the kindness of neighbors. 62-year-old Randall Vick is disabled. Last week's overwhelming floods came from 2 different directions off his surrounding mountains, giving him only a split second to tell his wife, Rosalie, that he loved her. The raging waters knocking their house off the foundation, carrying the couple off in the floodwaters. Randall Vick clinging to a tree in the rushing waters for about 7 hours before 2 neighbors were able to rescue him. However, the body of 55-year-old Rosalie was found several miles away in another creek. Vic is now living with nearby relatives but hopes to return to the area one day.
40 cents. That's down 2 cents from yesterday. Highest prices are in California and the lowest in Texas. Amid political talking points, there is some confusion about where we are, how we got here, and where we're going. Prices surged as economic activity rebounded amid the COVID-19-induced economic downturn. Because demand surged faster than supply, prices went up. That's just basic economics. Groups like OPEC wouldn't budge to ramp up production with this new need. and that's still a problem. Russia's attack on Ukraine only made things worse. To address this, back in April, the White House ramped up production domestically. Starting in April, the administration began to release an additional 1 million barrels a day to market this from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. So far, that in part has driven down the price. It's come with its own problems, though.
Jobs last month, 528,000 to be more precise. That number brings back all the jobs lost in the coronavirus recession. The unemployment rate also fell to 3.5%, the lowest since the pandemic struck in early 2020. The red-hot jobs numbers from the Labor Department come amid a growing consensus that the U.S. economy is losing momentum. America's economy shrank in the first 2 quarters of 2022, an informal definition of a recession, but most economists believe the strong jobs market is keeping the economy from slipping into a downturn.
Curb demand for gas as they brace for further cuts in Russian supplies, raising the prospect of outright rationing across the continent.
Between the 1st of August and March 31st, 2023, by at least 15%.
We've been here many times before.
Why not have breakfast in the kitchen? It is warmer in the morning.
Through war, siege, and social strife, the world has pared back the use of everything, from food to fuel and water. Let's take a look at some of those episodes.
Here's one young man who was going to make sure of his ration.
A year after entering World War II, Britain introduced a food ration system, allocating coupons for things like sugar, bacon, and cheese. People were encouraged to grow their own fruit and veg.
They must have it, and you can do with less.
Just weeks after the attack on Pearl Harbor in 1942, tyres became the first product to be rationed in the US. Gasoline and food rationing began shortly after. Macaroni and cheese became the recipe of choice for millions because it required very few ration points.
This following the grave news of impending shortages.
After the Second World War, rationing behind the communist-run Iron Curtain was widespread.
Today, meat became the ultimate status symbol.
In Poland, the government rationed sugar, cigarettes, shoes, petrol, meat, and other basic food essentials. It led to hunger demonstrations and the growth of the anti-communist solidarity movement by the early 1980s.
People have grown tired of the daily scramble to fill their stomachs. Many say it's now worse than during the war.
In 1973, the oil embargo by Arab exporting states plunged Europe into a deep energy crisis. West Germany, Denmark, Italy, and others banned driving on Sundays. France lowered speed limits and stopped TV broadcasting at 11 p.m. to encourage people to go to bed. In 2014, Venezuela's Nicolas Maduro introduced a secure food supply card. It sets limits on purchases and is intended to stop shoppers stocking up on subsidized groceries and reselling them. Cuba's rationing system, introduced shortly after Fidel Castro's 1959 revolution, made a comeback during the coronavirus pandemic. Basic items like soap and washing up liquid became subject to rationing amid widespread shortages.